Hello, everybody. And why did you have to say that, Tim, right before, not when I'm about to go live? Why? I have to start over because of that, whatever the crap that was. Hold on. I can't even do it. I don't have the logo like set up to a certain key. Anyways, hello, everybody, and welcome to Thought Raid, a show where we take on thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon Brown, owner of United Gamers Nations and a lay counselor, and with me today is the wonderful Tim DeNock and his raunchy jokes break the meta.
Hey man, it wasn't raunchy.
I mean, and today is a special day because it's the first of 2021. Yay!
Hey.
And we have a whole new design for the new year, which was not intentional. I was not thinking about, you know what, new year, new design. I was just like, you know what, I'm tired of our previous design. I want to try something different. And so here's different. And so I'd love to hear those of you who are watching us today, if you like it, let us know. If not, let us know. I mean, I make no guarantee what's going to change after this point. I kind of flow with it. So I wanted something dark and moody and cool and whatever. And so this is what we're doing. So welcome to 2021. We made it. We have made it out of 2020. We are in a new year. And welcome. Thank you for liking the stream.
Man, Brandon, I am so happy that COVID is over. It feels good, man. Life is going to go back to normal.
I mean, technically that didn't end with the new year, but I mean, hopefully by the time we get to summer, it will be dead enough that we won't have to deal with it come winter, which would be great, which means maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to go to Japan this year, which depending on how the pricing is for airplanes, I might have to like raise some more money to take care of that cost. But
it's twice as expensive.
It is. What the heck happened? Like the prices were so low in 2019, and then 2020 they're even lower, and then like they're like predicting, I guess, that people are gonna just like start flying out the wazoo, and now they've doubled in price. Like, what happened? Like, where did the cheap prices go? Even in the summertime, it was still ridiculous. It won't be over. There's a strain of COVID now. Is it a new strain of COVID or just an old one? Like, is it COVID 20 now? Like, has it started to adapt? Is that what we're gonna, like the flu? Is that what we're gonna? Anyways.
I don't know, man. I think from this point, I'm just gonna choose to ignore anything and everything COVID related. Let me just cover up this comment that I see on the screen. Sorry, Dylan.
My new 2021 resolution is to ignore all things COVID. We'll just cut out all negativity of my life. I'm not gonna bother with it.
Let me start writing stuff. But you know, man, I actually might have some good news for you when it comes to us going to Japan. But I'll tell you off air.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Brandon, I like your new room.
Oh, thank you. I reorganized my entire room just for you. I decided to leave the coffee shop that I was in and then put myself in this clearly realistic room. Nothing is fake about it whatsoever. Thank you for liking the stream. I appreciate it.
Hello, Kyle. Hello, Ellie.
So, this week, we're going to start off the new year talking about a very important question, which is, are you happy? And we had a different name for this topic going into it, but we decided to go with "Are you happy?" because we feel like people can immediately relate to that question a lot quicker than, you know, are you enjoying your life or something like nature. Just we kind of felt like this would be more catchy. But pretty much the gist is we want to talk today about, like, truly, are you enjoying life? Are you taking the time to enjoy the good and the bad that's happening? Because 2020 has been wrecked with so much bad. But there has been a lot of good that's come out of it too, and a lot of necessary changes that has happened because of what COVID has pushed us under, and civil unrest and all the other things that have been going on. So we want to kind of dive into that topic, and this is something that you've prepared for specifically, Tim. So I want to kick this concept over to you now. So
yeah, so the reason I want to talk about this today, I'm full screen. Get used to it, Tim. Everybody's making resolutions. Everybody's trying to find happiness. Are you happy is such a subjective term. And, if I asked any of our viewers, Brandon, if I asked you if you're happy, a lot of people have things that they're happy about. Like, I'm happy that, I get to do this. I'm happy that I get to spend time with my wife. I'm happy that I have friends. There's so many things to be happy for, But I think in people's minds, if you ask them, are you happy? What they really hear is, are there things about your life that you find to be enjoyable? And the reason I want to talk about that specifically is, if you look at the question that we put in chat, of your 24 hours in any given day, what % of it do you consistently enjoy? I know there's a lot of mundane things in life that you have to do that suck.
Yes.
And it's like the whole concept of living for the weekend, or living for 5 o'clock, or living for video games, or whatever it is that you anticipate that you're like, man, if I could just get through work, or if I could just get through what I'm doing to do this thing that makes me happy. Are you living your life from that position? So it's much different than just saying, are you happy? Well, how much of your life are you happy with? How much of your life do you enjoy? Do you only enjoy an hour of it every day? Do you enjoy, a weekend, 5 hours throughout the week, and the rest of your week, it's like, life sucks. I hate what I'm doing. What is it for you, Brandon? Of your 24 hours in any given day, what % of it do you consistently enjoy?
It's weird. In many ways, I enjoy large swaths of my day, and there are small areas that I don't enjoy, because I think maybe it's just because of my mentality related to my day. Generally, every day, honestly, for me, is an opportunity where I can change someone's life, and I always enjoy that. I enjoy the concept of, today I get to present a new thought, or there's an opportunity for me to do that. Today is a day where I can love someone a little bit better than I did the last time. Every day I wake up, there's an opportunity for that. Whether that happens a lot or not at all, I don't really know, because in general, I'm not the best with time management, so I can make up plans suddenly and do things that I didn't plan a weekend ahead, ahead or something, or whatever. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but I just kind of wake up with that expectation. But depending on the day, sometimes I could go through... No, you see, that's weird. I go through acute problems. So not obtuse, acute. So I'll have a lot of things that hit me hard and fast, and then I'm floored. This week, there's been a couple of days where I've literally been floored because I'm having all this mental pain and stress all at once. And then after I lay there and I'm talking about it with God or another person, I break out of that, and then I'm good again. And then I'm enjoying my day all over again. But in general, I guess I have maybe 1/4 of my day sometimes I don't enjoy, depending on how bad I'm going through things. Maybe at most 1/3 of my day. I don't know. It just depends. But a large portion of it, I honestly do enjoy, because I rest on joy comes in the morning, and this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. It's a decision that I kind of make.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different for me. You and I are the same in that we always think about the underlying current of our life, and we'll talk about that later. But, I was just thinking, somebody asked me the other day, am I happy? And I'm like, well, honestly, I'm just a very content person. I can be content waiting in a doctor's office. I can be content playing a video game. It's very little shakes me to the point where I'm agitated or angry or pissed off, or just um, I don't view life with hope, because I feel like happiness and enjoyment has to be synonymous with hope in some regard. And it's very rare that I navigate portions of my time throughout the day without hope. So for me, I would say that I'm a pretty content person. And so I want to talk about this from my perspective. At least I will be.
Sure.
If you guys are listening in chat and you got things you want to say about this or thoughts or whatever, I'd love to hear what you have to say as well, because I know that perspective is everything when it comes to this. But what are your expectations when it comes to being happy or enjoying your life? Like, what do you expect for that to be fulfilled? Do you have any specific expectations, Brandon?
What do I expect for my life to be happy?
Yeah, what are your expectations when it comes to being happy or enjoying your life?
It's a simple question, but it's also very complicated at the same time. Like, I guess let me just try to remain as simple as I can. For me to be happy, I guess part of my day I like to have affected someone else's life in some shape, way, or form in a positive way. Like if I am constantly to myself and I am not helping other people, I can enjoy that, but after a while it gets dull. I enjoy, like, for me to be happy, I enjoy having some time to play games. I like being able to play games. Making money is great. Which, by the way, we now have a fully functional, fully statted out Patreon.
Hey.
Yes, which I have listed up in the left-hand corner up over here. And that is the name that we have it under on Patreon. And in the description, there is a link now to our Patreon that, if you have been really enjoying what we've been doing and would like to invest into us, we could use the investment. And we've got different types of tiers with different benefits on Patreon. So if you would like to help us continue to do what we're doing and grow, we have a method to do that now. As low as $5 to as much as $150 at the moment, but you probably could also donate any amount that you want to. I think Patreon has a system for that, I think. Either way, that's out there. So making money is great.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we call a shameless plug.
That's a shameless plug. Look, I've been doing this for 8 months. For free. But anyways, but at the same time, not like here to like, if you don't do this, then no, it's everything by invitation. But that being said, that's an important factor of helping me to feel happy, I guess, like a basic thing. I don't know. But I think because of who I am, I think the main overarching thing is being able, and having a nice breakfast and having my delicious bagel with cream cheese and a hash brown and yogurt. That's a good life. I'm going to have to look at like doing a different type of breakfast because I'm going to be doing this thing with Eric where we're going to have like more vegetables and fruits and stuff instead of, I guess, meat and wheat. So that's gonna be
shaking his head.
That's gonna be an interesting transition. I don't know exactly how that's gonna look. I think I need to sit down with him and like really like plan some things out because I really don't know how that's gonna look, honestly. But those are like my surface level things. Like they're not like required, but they are good. They do make me happy.
Yeah. Well, thinking about this question is really interesting for me. So what are your expectations when it comes to being happy or enjoying life? Per the Get Naked Monday we just did, I talked about how I started playing Final Fantasy XI again. And it's really interesting, not the parallel, the what's it called when you compare two things? The
comparison.
Whatever. I guess the comparison between how I viewed it then and where I was in life then and how I thought to where I am in life now and how I'm thinking. Because, when I played that game, my whole focus and my happiness was rooted in, am I accomplishing something for myself? Am I getting this item in the game that I wanted? Am I making progress for myself? And now, now that I'm playing it, my expectations for what makes me happy are completely different.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big thing, because I was a very selfish person back then.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this altercation I had with somebody in the game back then, and I invited all these people to come help me do something. And when an item dropped that I wanted, I took it for myself because I was the one that invited it. I didn't open it up to everybody to have a chance at it, and that kind of made the person upset, and they called me out for being selfish. And I was like, what? I'm not selfish. And I was rationalizing in my mind, because my happiness and stuff, or the idea of enjoying my life and being happy and fulfilled or whatever, was being threatened by this person telling me that I was all about myself. And now it's like, now that I'm playing it again, I'm trying to get some old friends that I used to play it with to play with me, because I want to enjoy their company, And then in other regards with my life, what are my expectations for being happy? Like, yesterday was tough. I was actually agitated for some reason.
Really?
And Ariane looked at me and she's like, well, what do you want? Like, what would make you happy right now? And the only thing that kept coming to mind was being productive, like doing something, And I was like, why do I have to be doing something to be happy, to enjoy? Where I like, it's New Year's Day. I'm with my wife. Neither of us have to work. We're just hanging out. We're both healthy. Our finances are good. We live in a cool house. We both have working vehicles. We're not hungry. We have tons of food in the fridge. Some friends brought us some champagne, which is kind of cool. It's like, why was I unable to be present? And so I'm like, well, what were my expectations? I think in the moment yesterday, I was feeling challenged because my expectation of what it meant to be happy was me achieving something.
Mm.
And so if I wasn't achieving something, I couldn't be happy. But I'm not always going to be achieving something. So it's like, am I able to enjoy my life right now? Am I able to be happy right now?
Yeah, that makes me think. I because I was trying to figure out like where you were going with specifically that question. There are some other things now since you mentioned that I realize are unspoken reasons for why I feel like I should be happy, and if they're not happening, I shouldn't be happy. Like, for everything to be right and ordered in a relationship, I feel like I have to have everything worked out and everything be fine. Otherwise, I can't be happy, because something is wrong. And if I can't figure out what it is, then I can't be happy. Or, for instance, I have to figure out why I'm feeling a certain way. Like, for whatever reason, if I hit a situation, because it's weird. Okay, for me, I have no problem figuring out why I feel as I feel most of the time. Like 9 times out of 10, if I feel a way, I know what I did to make myself feel that way. Within a span of about 30 minutes of sitting there and thinking about it, I have an answer. But if I can't get it within 15 to 30 minutes, I don't feel like I can be okay, because I haven't figured out what's bothering me. And so I extend the amount of time I'm not happy, because I don't have the answer to why I don't feel right as rain as that moment, in that moment. Or, like, if I'm doing something that I feel like God's called me to, and it's something that he's called me to apart from a job that I'm currently working, like with Thought Rate. If I'm not presently making money through this, I feel unhappy, because it's like, because I'm afraid that I missed something. Like, clearly, if God called me to do this, then I should also be in a certain place by now. Which, granted, I have not let anyone know where we are at financially, so how would anyone know to invest in the first place? But second, like I'm not trusting in God's ability to take care of me. I'm trusting in my like circumstance to take care of me. And so I have this refusal to be happy because things are not perfect the way I think they should be. And this just, I all thought about this because of what you were talking about, but like I relate to that in these particular areas.
Yeah, and something you said was really interesting about essentially the way I received it in my mind was reconciling with God the product of what you're doing instead of reconciling with people. Because when I do something, I think it was Beth Johnson, somebody significant, maybe it was Ariane, I'm not quite sure. They were talking about how, she's very significant.
Yes.
Yeah. But they were talking about when you're doing stuff, expecting a specific result from somebody or even yourself it's always going to let you down because people aren't perfect, you know. But resolving that when you make a decision, you're doing it to please God, not the person. It's like, even if that person hurts you or doesn't respond the right way, you're still successful in your endeavor because you followed what God wants you to do. You're serving him and not the person.
Yeah.
You know, just, I don't know, that makes a lot of sense to me now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, let me grab this next question. So I want to identify exactly what we mean when we say joy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when the previous question said, what are your expectations when it comes to being happy or enjoying your life? What do we actually mean by that, right? Because, you know, one of the big things is people don't really start thinking about their expectations because they don't really understand what it means to have joy, right? So when we're talking about joy, we're not just talking about, oh, yay, you know, people are getting married, celebration, this is happy. Or, I don't know, you have the euphoria of driving fast or, you know, going on a date or stuff, all the stuff that makes you buying retail therapy, getting yourself something new, you know, that makes you happy, but is that actually joyful? You know, and I just want to clarify that when we're talking about joy, we're talking about everything that's all encompassing. It's good, the bad, the difficult, right? Because Paul, if you go, I think it was in Corinthians, he was in jail and he was just writing letters and he was like, you know, I've had money, I've been poor, I've been healthy, I've been sick, and in everything I've found joy. I'm happy in all situations and stations in life. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's really cool, man. So basically what he's saying is even when things are not going great, he's happy. He's enjoying his life. And so if you go to the earlier question, of your 24 hours in any given day, what percent of it do you consistently enjoy? If you answered less than 80%, I want you to pay attention to that. Because at one point in my life, that's what I answered. Less than 80% of my life do I enjoy. Like, even though I was playing a video game for 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, I only enjoyed maybe 20% of it because I felt like, oh, I'm only happy if. Oh, I'm only enjoying this if.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So not only was I not taking care of my responsibilities, I was playing a video game all day long. And even though I was playing a video game, which was supposed to be fun and relaxing and engaging and stuff, I only enjoyed the parts where I met my expectations of what it meant to be happy, you know, getting an item or having success. But I want to get your perspective on this, Brandon. So when we're talking about joy and we're talking about the good, the bad, and the difficult, like, how does that relate to life, do you think?
So we're talking about joy and how it relates to the good, the bad, and the difficult. How does it relate? Like, refine that question for me, please?
Well, what Paul was talking about finding the good in everything, essentially being happy. Like, what does that actually look like in somebody's life?
Okay. Well, the fact of the matter is, God wants us to live above circumstance. He wants us to begin to live as if we're in heaven before we get to heaven, to bring heaven down on earth. Like, life is not about getting to heaven. Like, that's a plus. And if we accept Christ as our Savior, we're, you know, and we're repentant of our sins, we're following him. Of course, we're destined for heaven. But that's not the goal. The goal is to bring a piece of heaven down to earth every day. And so God has available for us peace and joy and other fruits of the Spirit that if we decide that I'm going to live as if I'm already there, eventually, and it's not immediate, but eventually that becomes a natural, integral part of who we are on a day-to-day basis. So, like, I've gone through COVID and all this stuff. I didn't have COVID, but I went through the pandemic of last year, which is yesterday, pretty much, on all the 365 days of last year. And that was a very tough situation. But every day last year, I was talking with different friends about this. Virtually almost every day of last year, I had to wake up and I had to make a decision. Because every day I would wake up, there's phlegm going down the back of my throat. My nose is feeling like I could get sick any moment kind of thing. Like every day was an opportunity for me to accept sickness and to accept COVID and to allow me to believe that, okay, I'm just going to get sick because my roommate got sick twice with COVID. I was around other people that had COVID. Everything suggested you should have gotten COVID, and I didn't get COVID. And it was not because I was just like some kind of perfect person, but I chose to believe what God said over my circumstance. And that's all I did. And it wasn't easy. And I had to spend some days repeatedly convincing myself of that because sometimes the symptoms wouldn't go away and I would continue to feel sick. And then it was a very tempting thing to just let that, destroy me and like crap. And it's really not fun to think of getting COVID because then you get isolated from people. And I had, when my roommate got sick for the second time, I had to isolate like for 2 weeks, and that sucked because, I'm not working a regular job, so I need that social interaction to keep me sane, in addition to time spent with God. And so, like, it was just, I did not want to get COVID. And so, I had to make a decision every day. Am I going to accept these symptoms I'm waking up with as I'm sick and I'm going to allow that to control me? Or am I going to believe that God told me, because he did. He told me, you're not getting sick. And I decided to believe him. And so I think every day to walk in joy is a choice to believe that there can be something that we're joyful about. And to believe that rather than to believe there's nothing to be joyful about. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's not something always tangible.
I want to challenge that. You said it doesn't make sense, and I'm thinking to myself, like, for this year, I really want to start paying attention to what I say and why I think certain things. Like, why doesn't it make sense? Think about that from our cultural perspective. Why doesn't it make sense to look at everything and find, the good in it? And to focus on the path that we're going on instead of the obstacles that we face, we're taught that at some point, so why it should make sense, biblically, that's exactly how God lined it up. If you think about Adam back in the garden, he woke up and, he didn't strive for his identity. He didn't strive for his value. God was like, hey, dude, let me take you around this world that I made. Let me show you all these animals. We're going to name them. You know what? Let me take you deep under the ocean. Let's name all these anglerfish. And, Adam's just sitting there wide-eyed and like, swimming around or whatever. I'm just trying to imagine what that's like. And somewhere along the lines, when we start getting all this knowledge and maturity, we start thinking to ourselves, okay, let me pay more attention to my circumstances than where I'm going. Let me start looking at what I see to be true than what is actually true. And it's almost like the more responsibility we get, the more we elevate our circumstances over our value.
Well, I think another factor of being joyful is recognizing what you do have, and being intentional, recognizing what you do have. Because when you do get into that place of gratitude, it's a lot easier to be joyful because you recognize that you're alive. You have things. You may be in a crunch, but you still have a house, or you may still have clothing, or you may still have food, but you have certain things depending on how severe your situation is. And when you think about all the things you have, you naturally increase in joy because now you're elevating where you're at over what you're feeling. You're elevating the reality of the situation over the fear of the situation, which is always a place of lack and a place of like, like you're going to suffer or something. And that's been like one of the biggest struggles also of this year, is to pay attention to where I actually am rather than where I think I am or where I'm afraid I might be. Because that's a big thing. I had to keep existing in today. And so when I'm in today and I see I have all these friends, I have all this time, I have a house, I still have money, I'm okay. And I'm able to be joyful. But when I'm focusing on where I could be, where the money might run out, where I will not be able to solve the situation, where I could be screwed, it's impossible for me to be joyful in that situation. And so like that's an important factor, I think, just even practically, not even just biblically, but just practically. If you can see what you have rather than what you don't have or what you think you should have or where you think you should be, that's going to be a killer, you know, unless you're focusing what you do have.
You know, I want to talk about two really quick stories. Over Christmas, you remember how you bought me that sweater?
Yes.
And then I returned it?
Yes.
One of the things I got was a really nice copy of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Ah.
And so we had a close group of friends over, and I read How the Grinch Stole Christmas to everybody. And at the end, I thought it was kind of interesting how the Grinch goes through and, you know, he's upset with life. So he's taking all the things that he thinks that matters from all the who's in Whoville, right? And so he finishes his diabolical plan. He gets to the top of his hill and he's looking out and he's like, ha, 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 I've got all their presents. I've got their trees. They're going to wake up on Christmas morning and I'm just going to hear them cry. And all of a sudden he hears them singing. And, you know, in the movie, because we saw that over Christmas too, little Lucy Lou Who is like, hey, you know, we have family, we got everything we need. And then they focused on what they had and they were just appreciative of that. You know, they didn't really care about the presents and whatnot. Gosh, what was the other? Oh, last night we watched Aladdin, the live action remake. Have you seen that?
Not the live action, no.
It's actually pretty good. But in it, you know, Will Smith played as the genie, and you know, through the whole process, Genie was talking about how in 10,000 years, all the people that have wished for wishes and asked for like money and power and all this stuff, he said it's an empty hole. You know, as Solomon in the Bible says, it's vanity and chasing after the wind. That's essentially what Genie said in Aladdin. And I just thought it was interesting how Jafar, you know, when he rubbed the lamp and he asked to be a sultan, then a sorcerer, then he just kept wanting more and more and more, and that was his downfall, you know. But Aladdin didn't really want anything, you know. He had everything that he wanted, and that's what Genie was trying to tell him the entire time. Genie was saying, be yourself. You know, you're a street rat, you don't have any money, but none of that stuff matters anyways. What matters is your heart and who you are. That's who Jasmine cares about. I'm like, wow, that is so interesting. You know, he has this lamp and he could ask for anything in the world, but he doesn't need anything. And the genie even sees, dude, you don't need anything. You know? So at the end, when Aladdin sets Genie free, it actually brought me to tears because I'm like, man, I wish I could be like that. I wish I could have the option to have anything in the world and say, hey, actually, I give this up because I don't need it. Yeah. You know? It's just so fascinating. But do you think, Brandon, the feeling or the concept of being happy and finding joy, do you think it's a feeling or a chosen perspective?
I mean, it's a chosen perspective that produces a feeling. Like, happiness is something to be cultivated, not necessarily something to be pursued or foraged. Like, it's joy cultivates happiness. But you have to make the decision to be joyful. If you do not make the decision to be joyful, then you cannot really properly expect to be joyful and happy, because it's like you've already missed the point. Like, it's not like, again, God wants us to live as if we're already in heaven, which means by faith, I choose to be joyful. And that's why in the beginning I was talking that it doesn't make sense, because when let's just say I'm in a situation, I've lost family members, I've lost my parents, which I love very dearly. I'm doing even worse financially, and there's a lot of things that are going wrong. I have every right not to be joyful because the people that I love has been removed from my life. I don't even know how I'm going to pay my bills. And there's a lot of crap things going on in my life, and I have every right to not be joyful. But I'm still welcomed into being joyful in that moment with Jesus, because I still have Jesus. He's still there. And let me tell you, in this current rough spot that I'm in, one of the things that has been really helpful is literally has been Jesus, because like those moments where I've been on the floor and I'm just having like a panic attack, you know, God has been there every time, and he's talked me through my panic attack, and he's helped me calm down and like help me realize the illogical thinking, and he's never once has he not been there to talk me through it. So I always, regardless of who is in my life or what possessions I always have Jesus. But looking at it from a more secular perspective, you know, you have gravity pulling you down onto a planet that is suitable for you to be alive, with an atmosphere that's breathable, and and if you're in America, you have different places that can help you. There are places that could, you know, take care of homeless people, provide shelter and food. There's a great deal of generosity that does exist here. Maybe you're not in that dire of a situation, but then you do have a place that you're currently living in. You have friends. There's always something we have, and you have the option to choose what you're going to focus on. You can choose to focus on your lack, and then you can perpetuate just how bad the situation is and live small. Or you can focus on what you do have and your abundance, and you can expand your life, and you can have increased energy to affect other people. And as you work from that place of joy that you made the decision to focus on, other people benefit from that, and you are cultivating more and more reasons to be happy. I sit right now surrounded by lots of people that love and respect me, but that's come from every day choosing to be joyful and to love them. And so now I'm reaping some of the benefits of that. But if I had decided to look at all the things I didn't have, when UGN didn't work out the way that I thought it was, and if I allowed that to destroy me, or I allowed the situations and times where I kept being stuck in porn to destroy me, I wouldn't really have much to give to people. And by this point in my life, I wouldn't have as many people in my life pouring back into me.
You know, that's a really good point, Brandon, because I remember at one point in my life when I was feeding this desire to pursue happiness as something that I could achieve, you know, or the whole joy concept where it's like 10% of my week. You know, I was surrounded by people who seemingly did the same thing. But now I'm surrounded by people like you and Ariane and, you know, all of our LFC friends and all the people at the Vine and everything. And it's like a lot of these people are just happy with their situations, you know. And it's like, I don't know where it is in the Bible, but there's a part where it talks about how we're supposed to seek God in everything. God is in everything. It's in my little beat up pair of Astro headsets right here, this empty cup of coffee. You know, it's in that bill that you've been putting off paying that's sitting on your coffee table. I mean, he's in everything. And I think the magic there for me was at one point, I saw so many of these things that were actually Jesus. I saw them as an adversary, as if it was something that I didn't want to partake in. Because, you know, you got to understand that God never plucks you out of your circumstances. If God really is who he says he is, he walks with you through things. Right. And through that, not by avoiding tribulation, through the difficulty, through the crappy stuff, he shows you who he is. He shows you that he loves you. He shows you that your value is unchanged. Just like the story of the prodigal son, man, that kid was a dummy. You know, he had all this money that he got from his father. I mean, just imagine, okay, so whoever you are watching this right now, just imagine your dad gives you $10 million. Woo. Right? Dad gives you $10 million. You're like, I'm going to Vegas. You know, I'm going to go party. I'm going to go do whatever. And so for the next year of your life, you just live it up. You buy the cars, you eat the good food, you know, you travel, you know, you spend money on women and alcohol or whatever is the trite social cultural thing to do, and you blow it, right? Most of the time our thought process is, oh, I blew it, I'm gonna have to work it back, oh my goodness. But in the story of the prodigal son, the kid went back to his father. Well, he went to his father's farm first, and you know, he went and tried to work in the fields, and he's like, please just give me a job, let me just work as one of my father's workers. And then that night when he tried to go to sleep, he went to where the pigs laid, and you know, he was all smelly and gross, and they threw slop in the trough for the pigs. And he was like, man, I wish I could eat some of that food because it's better than what I have, you know? And then his father found out and was like, oh man, you know, bring him inside, you know, get him a robe, get him a ring, and go slay my finest beast, and let's have roast beast.
Roast beast.
But I just think that's so cool. You know, you can't mess it up. And so as you go through tribulation, as you go through all the stuff that you think is unworthy of grace and unworthy of joy, that's where God shows you, hey, I am your father. You are my prodigal son, and that's where one of the biggest things in the consulting and stuff that I do is people don't really understand that their circumstances cannot change their value. A lot of people think that your circumstances do change your value, that how much money you have in your bank account, how, oh no, your wife just left you, your boyfriend just left you, whatever, your family cut you off, your friends don't speak to you. Oh no, this influences your, no, it doesn't influence your value.
Right.
Your value cannot change.
Right.
And that's an integral part of understanding what it means to live a lifestyle of happiness instead of, oh, well, I'll be happy Friday after 5 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah, when you put your happiness on a specific time frame, then all the other times you have between that have become wasted because your whole focus is on, I can't wait for the weekend. And then the weekend comes, and the weekend is 2 days out of a 7-day week. That means that 5 days out of the week is gone. Like, any value to you is being diminished because you're more concerned about what you can do in 2 days. Not to say that those 2 days aren't very refreshing, they are, but you still have 5 specific other days that you can use to invest into other people, to increase your own, like, knowledge and to enjoy people and things. Like, you have time. Like, hopefully you're not working a 24/7 job, or if it is, maybe it's only a shortened amount of time that you're there, like if it's like a hospital situation, because I know sometimes that's another story, but hopefully, so it's like you have more time to your day that you can invest into someone's life, into your own, into a lot of different things when you have the correct perspective of, ooh, I'm alive today. I have a new, fresh, 16 hours of awake time that I can spend making money, doing different things with people, with myself, whatever. Like, it's just an opportunity. You don't have to wait until Friday and Saturday to have a good time. Work does not need to have that kind of power over you mentally.
Yeah. Man, last night as we were watching the ball drop, by the way, that was the most depressing thing. I don't know if any of you guys watched it. But
I did. We did.
There were like 5 people in Times Square. What the heck? And then, they had the picture of the 2 people that were hosts, and they were dancing and nobody was around. It's like everything was echoing. It just seemed so depressing. But anyways, the concept that I had last night was, I was like, oh man, are we going to get raptured in, 30 seconds as the ball drops? And in that moment, I mean, it was just a thought that I had. But in that moment, it's like, if I only had 30 seconds left to live, what would I do? My job was not at the forefront of my mind. How much money we had in our bank account, that didn't occur. I just looked over at Ariana. I was like, I really want to be present with her. And enjoy what I do have instead of what I don't have or what I think I need to do tomorrow. The Bible even says that. It says, worry not for tomorrow because tomorrow has its own worries. Right. We're called to be present. We're not called to, anyways. But yes. What I just put in chat was, joy requires difficulty, obstacles, and tribulations. It's, thinking about the whole Eastern religion thing, the yin and yang. I mean, I don't believe in Eastern religion at all, but the whole yin and yang thing does make sense to a degree because, it's all perspective. If we didn't have free will and if we didn't go through difficult stuff, there would be no good stuff by comparison. There's nothing, there are no varying degrees. It's like, how could something be good if I can't differentiate good from bad? And that's a concept, like, I know in heaven, that's how it's going to be, but I can't wrap my head around that now. So for me, it's just perspective. But how do you enjoy things that are difficult, Brandon?
Well, I mean, it's perspective. Like, the way that I go about enjoying difficult things is that I recognize that every difficult thing that I go through is an opportunity for me to grow. So if I look at it from that perspective, then I can look at it in the light of, oh, I don't like this, but, and there's a but instead of a, you know, a butt that leads in a negative direction. It could be in a positive direction where I can look at it and specifically think a positive butt.
A butt that leads in a negative direction.
Yeah, I know.
I think most butts do.
Yeah, but in this case, like, I can look at it specifically as like, this is an opportunity for growth. You know, this sucks right now, but it's not permanent, and I'll be able to grow from the situation and be much better equipped the next time something like this happens. Which it very likely will. But the next time I might not even notice that it is happening, because the first time was a learning opportunity. Did you drop something?
I did.
So to look at it from that perspective, specifically that this is a chance of growth, I think is a good way to find joy in a difficult situation. And I think also just recognizing that as bad as things are, they don't last. You know, good times, they come and go, but also bad times come and they go. They're not gonna stick around. And so if I can endure this with Christ, learn something from it, talk about it with people, so I'm not holding this all on my shoulders, but I'm spreading out this amongst multiple people and Christ, then it's not so much of a big deal, and I can be joyful. Because also, like, and here's something, as you get closer to God, bad situations are excuses, perfect excuses to spend more time with God. Like, you know, I know people put a bad rap on, like, you know, don't just go to God when you're going through a tough time, but like, don't condemn yourself for doing that either. Like, go to him. Like, it's an opportunity. Like, I'm having a bad time. This means I get to go to God about this. And you find things, you find the cracks of light coming through your dark situation. When you're underneath the storm, it's darker, but there's still light rays that come through the clouds. You know, if, you know, you're in a dark situation, there is light somewhere. And if you can find that, which usually it's through Christ, usually it's through recognition of what you do have, things of that nature, then that's what helps me be joyful in a difficult situation. I'm not diminishing. It's still a difficult situation. I absolutely hate it. But the situation does not define me. It is an opportunity for me to grow, and that's what's most important. And to give yourself grace, too, when you're going through difficult situations. Like, a lot of times people get hard on themselves because they feel like, I should not be dealing with this. But to recognize that perhaps you have not had to deal with this in this specific manner before, and it's new, and you're not handling it well because you haven't had to deal with it in that way before. Recognize that, because that's something I've had to do. Like, I've had issues of being clingy with people and being insecure regarding people. But this year I've lost my job. There's a pandemic going on. There's been, like, I have not been able to interact with as many people as I would like to. The government is in chaos right now with just who is going to be the next president. Like, there's all these things in flux. Of course, I am not going to be on my A game when it comes to insecurities and neediness. And not to say that I need to accept that. I need to, of course, grow through it. But I also should give myself grace, which then helps me rejoice because I'm in a new situation and I'm learning. There are no problems, there are only opportunities. And any bad situation you're in is an opportunity for growth and for new creative solutions.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking, that gave me an idea. Like, I've never been in one of these, but life is a lot like an escape room. You know, now here's the reason I say that. A lot of times people pay to go to escape rooms. It's not like Saw where you're like chained up and you have to cut your arm off. It's never like that. A lot of people will think, oh, life is like that, where I have to make all these decisions to, oh no, I have to do this in order to get, no, that's not what it's like. You know, you pay and you choose, you elect to go in this escape room. It's fun. You usually take friends, but the whole concept is the room you're in right now has certain things you're supposed to pay attention to before you can progress. That's how it is, man. How do you enjoy the things that are difficult? You just got to remember it's like an escape room. You know, in order for you to move on to the next room, there are certain things you need to pay attention to. And you have to realize that you're in that room, you're in the situation in right now because you are equipped. It might not feel like it, but you are perfectly equipped to handle what
Yeah.
you're going through right
To
now.
get into the next room, you have to get everything situated first before you go there and figure out what it is you need to pay attention to, and that equips you for the next room. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
in the same way, now you're in a new place, you need to, of course, pick up new gear and stuff while you're in there and kind of figure out what's necessary to make it through the next door, but previous room prepared you for the current room.
yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of times we'll move to a new room and we'll try to do what succeeded in previous rooms and it doesn't work, and then we get frustrated and we just sit there, and then we lament the fact that we're not moving on. But you know, joy requires difficulty, obstacles, and tribulations, because once you finally conquer whatever you're trying to conquer, that's when it's time for celebration. That's where God receives glory. You know, that's where you realize, oh, I am stronger. I have made progress. You know, I look back on the last time I played Final Fantasy 11, since I was talking about that earlier. My bank account was in the negative. I didn't own a house. I wasn't married. You know, there were all these things that I did not consider victories, because the escape room that I was in was completely different. I was looking at all the things that I was supposed to pay attention to in the wrong perspective. It's like, oh, this key is supposed to open this door, but I was trying to use a key to, I don't know, break down the wall. It's not how it's supposed to be used, you know? But we're going to go a little bit over 60 minutes. I have two more questions, but let me throw this in chat real quick. Well, this is one of the two. Where did my screen go? Uh-oh.
My screen.
So, Brandon, is it okay if I only enjoy the good stuff? And am I messed up if I have trouble enjoying trials? And what I mean by these questions, if somebody finds themselves in a position where they just cannot have the right perspective on difficult things, is it okay if they just enjoy the good stuff? And then if they have trouble, seeing or enjoying trials, are they messed up? Is there something wrong with them?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is that trials and problems are just that. They're trials and problems. Who is going to enjoy life going to crap? No one. No one enjoys
You will
that.
if you're a good Christian.
No.
I'm just kidding.
I know. I know you're kidding, but it's important that you say that because it needs to be said. No, just because you're a Christian does not mean that you're automatically going to enjoy. There's a scripture verse that talks about punishment in Christ, that God, the Father, punishes us because we are his children. If he does not do so, then we are illegitimate children. And it says that no punishment is pleasant in the moment. It's painful, but it results in growth and better living. And so, yeah, no. Trials, pain, suffering is not... You would have to be a psychopath to enjoy those types of things. There are aspects within it that we do enjoy, but it is not specifically the suffering that we're going through that we are enjoying. Like, we're not satanistic. I don't know if that's the right... Sadistic or whatever. Like, I'm not enjoying pain and suffering. Like, God's not called us to be sadistic. No, like... The fact of the matter is, when you lose someone you love, that's painful. And that deserves to be grieved. And that deserves to go through the, why did this happen? Like, you need to allow yourself to have the doubts, to go through that, to express that as a part of the healing process. Because, really, God did not create this world to be subject to sin and death. He created it perfect and good, that there would be no sin and there would be no death. And we know that. And because we know that, it is therefore why we are grieved, because we understand that this was not what we were made for. We were not made to be under this duress constantly. So it's not fun. This is not God's will for our life, that we suffer and go through these things. He just promises it because we unfortunately live in a broken world that brings about suffering periodically or frequently, depending on what situation and lot in life you have. But... the fact of the matter is that, and it's okay if you just enjoy the positive things because they're positive. Like, of course. Like, You know, there's a problem if you can't enjoy good things, because it means you're probably depressed or numb, and we want to break you out of that. We want you to feel the enjoyment of good things, because God wants us to be happy and to be joyful. Like, of course he wants you to feel those things. You don't have to chastise yourself or make yourself feel bad because you want to enjoy good things. Like, no, God wants us to celebrate, to live from a joyful place. It's just the fact of the matter is that we can find the silver lining through everything, because the Bible says that he works all things together for our good. It doesn't say that he created all these bad things for our good, but he works through them all. And he finds a way to fine-tune every one of them for our good. That spooked me. Fine-tune every one of them. Thank you for liking the stream. Together for our good. Like, he's a masterful chess player, if you will, and he's working all these pieces. He's working amongst 7 billion plus people all together to work things out for a better future and a place where ultimately we win. You know, whether that be in this life or the life to come, the end result is victory over death. So it's just, we can find the silver lining in things and to take enjoyment in, this is going to change me for the better. It's going to grow me. I'm going to come out of this with a healthier perspective. And I'm going to be able to have more to give to a person. And in that, we can take enjoyment of the painful situation. But that does not mean that we have to enjoy it. That just means this is something that we're going to have to work through, bring God into, help us grieve, help us work through that, until eventually get to a place where we have elevated God above the situation. And even though it sucks going through it, I can still be at peace because God is at a higher place over what I'm going through right now, and I'm more looking upward than I'm looking at what's around me and what's not working right.
Yeah. And I want to address the question that we just posted before we move on. So specifically, is it okay if I only enjoy the good stuff? And am I messed up if I have trouble enjoying trials? Guys, you know, if you're in a place where you're just going through the good stuff, because I was there too. It's like, there was a point in my life where, you know, going out to eat and spending $40 on a dinner or buying a brand new shirt or whatever, those were the highlights of my life, you know, and it's like, I lived for those moments. There was a season of that, you know, that's okay. You know, because you can't have all these unrealistic expectations. You know, part of what I'm doing right now through my personal business is leading people through the understanding of their expectations. The whole New Year's resolutions, new year, new me. Like, what exactly are you expecting? You know, and a lot of times when people make a resolution to change, they have an unrealistic expectation of what that's going to look like as a result and of how they're going to go through it. You know. So you might be in that season where you're only enjoying the good stuff. That's okay. But you have to understand it's just a season. And then, am I messed up if I have trouble enjoying trials? No, you're actually quite normal.
Yes.
So, and guys, let me please drive this home as well, especially if you're a Christian. You know, we have this weird Christian cultural call to be perfect and, you know, just to glaze over things and to, oh, thank you, Lord. Oh, bless you. And, you know, just be the perfect, you know, Christians all the time, walking around on spiritual eggshells. You know, that's a bunch of crap. That's not what God wants.
Oh,
it's a bunch of crap.
You hit me when you said spiritual eggshells. I'm like, oh, no.
Well, it's a bunch of crap, and here's why. So, you know, if you're walking around on eggshells, right, and you're just stuffing down the feelings of desperation and fear and anxiety and stuff, and you're not actually processing them and working through them, you're not being honest with God. And, you know, the whole gospel is not about getting to heaven.
Yeah.
That's not the ultimate goal. Right. And there's a lot of Christians who are thinking, you gotta pray the sinner's prayer so you can go to heaven. You don't want to burn in hell, do you? Oh, you must. Are you gay? You're going to hell. No. That is not the gospel. That is not the gospel. The gospel is Jesus just wants a relationship with you. And if you have been in a legitimate relationship in your life, if you are married, if you're in a serious relationship, if you've had good relationships with your parents or your friends, you understand that it requires honesty. right? And if you're honest about how you're feeling, you're not always going to feel happy. You're not always going to feel joyous. You're not going to feel it, right?
Yeah.
It's position of it's the whole 18-inch journey thing. Sometimes you have to manufacture ideas in your head and work through it before God shows you, hey, let's introduce this into you as a lifestyle. It shows you why, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, part of the whole concept of living being messed up if you're not enjoying, if you're having trouble enjoying trials, you know, if you go to the Bible and you look at the story of David, David often complained to God. So did Jonah. Jonah got eaten by a whale, and he was, you know, he did what he was supposed to do after the fact, and then he was like, okay, God, after all this stuff been through, would you rain hellfire down on them? And God was like, whoa, slow your roll, tiger, you know. And you know, he had trouble enjoying that trial. He was like, no, there needs to be some kind of compensation for this. But there was also grace for that. Even Samson, you know, Samson went through some crazy trial. Dude had his eyes gouged out. Oh. You know, he was one of the strongest men in history. You know, and then when he fell, he went through trials where he was taken as a prisoner. He you know, the whole eyes being gouged out. He was made fun of. Even Jesus. You know, Jesus had the crown of thorns. They mocked him. They threw food at him. You know, they tortured him. You know, and I'm pretty sure that even Jesus had trouble enjoying that trial. So, you know, especially if you're a Christian, guys, and you're going through something, it's okay for you to be honest. You know, that's whole part of it. But yeah, I want to close out with answering this. What does it require to, let's see, what does it require like to live? Okay, we posted that incorrectly. Basically, what does it look like to live a lifestyle of happiness and joy? And I got a couple bullet points. I'm just going to throw them up and we'll run through them. I feel like such a teacher.
Well, I mean, it is Friday.
Yeah. So if you're going to change where you're at right now and attempt to choose a lifestyle of happiness, you got to live from a place of thankfulness. When my wife and I sat down yesterday and we were like, okay, well, let's plan out the new year. We decided, and I'll give her all the credit for this. She said, why don't we focus on what we were thankful for that God did do this year and the things the good stuff that did happen. And we had this huge list. We just went, you know, her than me, it's just a huge list. And it was a lot easier just to say, hey, we actually don't really need much this year, you know? And then God was like, well, start asking for things because you're my children. I still want to bless you, you know? But it's easier to bless somebody and to be blessed when you live a lifestyle of thankfulness, realizing that you are enough, that you have enough, your needs are met. And as Seth and Kyle said earlier in chat, you know, giving and, well, they hinted at it, giving and receiving grace in all situations. You know, when you give grace to somebody, that's one of the greatest things you can do. And that's, you know, not being mean to them, not holding them accountable for their circumstances, when in actuality you should be holding them accountable for their value. Completely different concept. Understand that your value cannot be changed by your circumstances. That kind of goes in line with that. So whatever you're going through right now, your value doesn't change.
Right.
You can't screw it up, guys. Understand that growth and difficulty is part of the process. So if you're going through growth, if you're going through difficulty, everybody does, man. Even Jesus went through that. And then lastly, last two things. You are not perfect and the circumstances never will be. So if you're trying to start a new career, if you're trying to go into business, if you're trying to start a family, buy a house, if you need to make a leap of faith and quit your job to do something, the circumstances are never going to be perfect.
Yeah. Right?
There are things that you are going to get in those in the unknown as you walk into that. There's things and equipment that you're going to get and proficiencies you're going to learn. You're going to get equipped as you go through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's never going to be perfect, and you're not going to be prepared before you go into those things. And then lastly, accept that seasons are in fact only seasons. And that's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said that next to last one, it made me think of a particular quote that we put onto Instagram. There will always be good reasons not to do what God has called you to do. Good reasons not to do something don't change his calling on your life. Because that was something that I had to realize. Like, there's not going to be a perfect situation where it's like everything is like gonna line up. When the day came where it was time for me to move out of my parents' house, it was not. There was plenty of good reasons that I should not have moved out. Financially, where I was at the time wasn't the greatest. My parents were kind of relying on the money that I was giving them in rent. There was just like a handful of things that just were good reasons why I should not have gone. But that did not change what God specifically called me to do. And so in the same way, like, there are good reasons not to be joyful. You know, there's good reasons not to have, you know, not to be in a place of, like, contentment or stuff of that nature. But just because there are good reasons doesn't mean that you can't or don't have to be or whatever. Like, it's a definitely worth place to be. Definitely worth.
Yeah. So guys, I want to make one promise to you, and that's you can get to a place where you look at your life and enjoy it. Yes. So if you feel despair right now, and if you're looking into 2021 and you're thinking to yourself, oh God, COVID is still here. Oh God, the economy is still wrecked. Oh God, Trump might get back in office. Oh no, Biden might get in office. You know, you're just looking at all the crap that happened last year, and you're just having. If you're not having hope, and if you don't have hope, guys, you can, and you are worth it, and you have everything that you need. You know, it's something that you have to choose.
Yes. It is.
It's
definitely
something that you have to choose.
Yes. Yeah. I have to choose to be joyful every day. And even then, sometimes when I choose, it doesn't always happen. Like, I still am encumbered, overwhelmed with certain thoughts and stuff, and then I have to work on getting that off of me. But it still is a decision that's made, but it's a decision worth having. Like, I've heard of a lot of people that have sleep issues, confidence issues, things of that nature, things I don't generally deal with, and it's because I feel at large because of how I decide to see myself. You know, when someone says something positive about me, I make the choice to believe that's true. You know, unless it's something that's completely outlandish to how I know myself to be, which that happens sometimes, but most of the time, I accept that. When God says something positive about me, I choose to accept that. You know, if God tells me that I could be at peace, I choose to accept that. And so as I make those decisions, then it transforms me because it changes the neural pathways in my brain, and now my brain is looking for specific things rather than looking for every devil behind every bush. You know, I'm now looking for God in everything that I'm doing and the good in everything that I'm in. And so it's a lot easier to handle those things.
So speaking of that, guys, plug for tomorrow. And tomorrow is going to be mostly for people who are having difficulty reconciling joy with living a lifestyle with Jesus. And, you know, something that's been on my heart lately is especially people with the LGBT community that are struggling and trying to figure out what a relationship with Jesus looks like. And also people who are finding their identity in works. And I'm talking specifically to the people who are serving the church and not God. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about flow and what that means to include Jesus in the flow of your life instead of feeling all bound up thinking, okay, well, I have to do this and this and this in order to qualify as a Christian. So that's on the docket to tomorrow for tomorrow. And then shameless plug. If you go to our Patreon page, there is actually a tier now where if you do support us or become a Patreon supporter, we are now accepting one-on-one clients. Mm-hmm. So if you see value in what we do, we would love to spend time with you. And we are appreciative of anything that you give us. If you give us anything, we're appreciative if you give us nothing at all too. Yeah. But if there is any desire out there, we are making time to provide one-on-ones with people to help them just with whatever and just to listen if you want. Yeah. So patreon.com/thoughtraid. Brandon can tell you more if he wants.
Yes. I want to, there's a couple things as we're closing out that I want to bring out. One is also going on tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys have anything that you are specifically going through that you would like for us to pray for you, we are going to be doing a live prayer night tomorrow at 7 p.m. It's going to be me and Eric. The two of us, we're going to be on screen praying for you guys. So please, whatever prayer requests that you have, if you heard this message and you're kind of feeling like, I don't know how I can be joyful through things, I don't know how I can enjoy life, there's so many things going on in my life that I hate, come tomorrow. We're going to be talking about flow at 4, and at 7 we're going to be praying. I love to have you specifically there for that. We love to pray. So please let your friends know, let your family know, whoever has prayer requests, let them come. We will be spending at least 30 minutes praying for you guys at 7 p.m. At the same time also, just to re-echo what Tim is saying, we here at Thought Raid live off of donations. And we have a goal presently. I want to reveal this to you guys, and I'm going to talk more about this in a video, which you will see later on. But we have a goal. We would like to hit $25,000 a month. At $25,000 a month, we will be able to hire at least 5 people, maybe 6, to help continue to grow Thought Raid. We would like to be able to have special small groups to help people individually in a group, well, not individually, but in a group setting. And we'd like to be able to step up our game and how we are able to help you. Like we have, of course, the broadcast, which we will continue to do 3 times a week, but we want to open the door for people to have more intimate settings where they're not being broadcasted so they can feel more comfortable talking about what they're going through. So if that's something you'd like to see happen, we would like to be able to reach $25,000 per month. That will allow us to be able to start rolling those things out, to be able to start hosting seminars, and to be able to travel, to go to places live and talk at churches and events. So like, let's say that you've got like a church that you're going to and you're watching us in California. You know, at that, we would be able to begin to work up money that will allow us to take flights out to California to go talk at your church, and to talk about whatever things that is being requested of us. But we want to expand, and I specifically would really benefit from any sort of financial donations you can make. So if you've really been enjoying this, like I am completely presently doing this for free, and I would like to be able to focus on this and not have to find another job to be able to that would end up splitting my focus from Thought Raid. So if you've really been enjoying this and you'd like to help me and then also help us bring on more people, please consider donating to us. We have different tiers that you can do so on Patreon, and the link to that is in the description below. But otherwise, just to reiterate, tomorrow we're talking about flow. We're talking about prayer night at 7 p.m. Be there for that. And if this has really benefited you and you've really enjoyed it, please consider donating so we can continue to do this without having to split our focus in other places. But I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and at 7. You guys have a good night. We'll see you again soon.